called back to West Yorkshire to lead a different murder inquiry in Bradford. The leadership in the Multistreaming murder investigation was handed over to his junior officer, Detective Superintendent Dick Holland. You may recall the name Dick Holland from his participation in the Yorkshire River investigation covered in Case 37 of Case 5. Jack Dibb would continue to oversee the investigation into Leslie Mulsey's murder, but Dick Holland was now responsible for it. Detective Holland made renewed appeals to the public, reiterating their ongoing search for the owners of the cream 1964 Vauxhall Beaver, witnessed with a child passenger, and to the hand-painted turquoise Morris 1000 minivan seen at the lay-by. Information then came in about a disturbing incident on the night of Friday, October 3rd, at the youth club at Kingsway Park, 2 nights before Leslie was abducted. Leslie was a member of that same youth club and lived less than 300 metres away from the park, although she wasn't there the night of October 3rd when the following incident occurred. At 9:50pm that night, 3 girls aged between 16 and 18 walked towards the Kingsway Youth Club. They were startled by a man who opened his coat and let his pants drop, exposing his genitals. The girls shrieked and ran towards the youth club. One of the girls heard the man yell, "When I get you bastards, I'll shove this right up you." Police spoke with other children present at the youth club that night. 2 10-year-old girls were walking home when they caught sight of a man standing in the shadows of the front porch of a clinic on Stuyps Lane. Leaning against the wall with a hand in his pocket, he watched as the girls walked past. Uneased by his lingering presence, the pair rushed back to the safety of the Kingsway Youth Club. They described the man as around 5 foot 10 inches tall, thin, wearing a dark overcoat and a dark hat, possibly a beanie. They, along with others who were out walking that night, also noticed a dark green or yellow car parked nearby, with a radio playing loud from an open window. Many other children came forward with their own accounts of this unknown man. Some thought he was wearing a black beret. A little girl thought he was wearing a mask over his face. Another saw he had a pair of binoculars around his neck. One girl watched the man from the windows of the youth club building. She said he was carrying a knife. Police found the children's recollections of the night varied in minor details, but police expected small discrepancies or exaggerations in statements given by young children and teenagers who witnessed something traumatic. Nevertheless, one thing was consistent. They all saw a suspicious man acting indecent near the youth club that night, only 2 nights before Leslie Mulsey was murdered. 13-year-olds Deborah Mills and Maxine Buckley were at the youth club on the night of Friday, October 3rd as well. They both observed the deviant loitering around Stuyps Lane and were able to offer police their own descriptions of the man. Deborah and Maxine had another frightening encounter the following day as well, October 4th, the day before Leslie was murdered. About 12:45pm, Maxine and Deborah were walking together along Vavasor Street in the Turf Hill estate. They both caught sight of a man loitering on the corner of Jackson Street. He looked to be 5 foot 10 inches tall, between the age of 20 and 30, with a broad build, smooth complexion, and light brown hair. He wore a light green parka. The man crossed the street and stood before the girls. He opened his coat, exposed his genitals, then immediately took off running along Vavasor Street towards Crawford Street. Maxine ran home and police were contacted. This time, Maxine thought she knew who the man was. Maxine told her mother Sheila, "I think it was the man who lives in Crawford Street, the house with the plants in the window." Police scoured the area but couldn't find the man. As Maxine believed she recognised the man as a resident of Crawford Street, she was driven by police to point out which house she believed he lived in. The police watched the property for a long time, but there was no sign of life inside. Nobody came or went. The place was
I'll
empty.
check out the Adventurers Guild. I might buy a
It was clear to police a pervert was in the Turf Hill estate confronting young children and teenagers on the same weekend that Leslie was murdered. So naturally, They considered this unidentified man as a suspect in Leslie's attack. Almost a month into the search for Leslie's killer, yet another incident was reported to police. This again involved Maxine Buckley, who witnessed the youth club in Vavasor Street flashings. Maxine's mother Sheila called police on the night of Wednesday, November 5th.
First time you've been in here?
The town of Rochdale was alive with festivities and fireworks for Guy Fawkes Night, also referred to as Bonfire Night, as residents lit up bonfires all over town as part of the celebration. At around 8:30 p.m. that night, Maxine Buckley walked home from a bonfire party with her friend Michael Rigby. They were walking down Vavasor Street when Michael recalled Maxine stopped abruptly, and her expression changed from a smile to blank fear. Up ahead, a man wearing a parka walked towards them. He was pulling faces and grinding his teeth. Maxine recognised him as the man who exposed himself to her and Deborah Mills on October 4th in Vavasor Street. Michael and Maxine ran to her place to tell her mother. Police conducted a patrol to try and find the man, but they had no success. Maxine, Michael and their mothers got into a car and drove to the house on Crawford Street where Maxine believed the perpetrator lived. And this time, there were signs of life. The front door was open and the hallway illuminated. Inside was a small older woman standing beside a looming, overweight man in dark trousers and a white shirt. Maxine started to cry and said, "That's him, Mum. That's him." Thank you for listening to today's episode. We'll be back soon. Vibrations to help clean your teeth. It's the first subscription electric toothbrush. Today's episode is also brought to you by HIMS. HIMS connects you with real doctors and medical grade solutions. And the best part is, it's all done online. There's no waiting room and no awkward doctor visits. You can save it for hims.com/casefile. I also want to tell you about a cool new show called This Sick Girl Ring from the Dexter Guff is Smarter Than You podcast, and Carly Pope from the TV shows Arrow and Suits. The series moves beyond parody by telling a compelling, serialised story that will leave you dying for more. The first 2 episodes are available May 1st, wherever you get your podcasts, and each episode is about 25 minutes long, perfect for a commute or road trip. So go download it today. Police arrived to the house on Crawford Street at 10:20 p.m. They wanted to interview the man Maxine Buckley had identified as the sexual deviant who exposed himself to her on October 4th in Vavasor Street. Maxine wasn't certain if he was also the same man from the youth club incident on October 3rd, but given the similarities in both incidents, it seemed likely they were perpetrated by the same offender. Charlotte Kishko answered the door. Inside, the police found a house in disarray. Boxes filled with belongings were everywhere. Charlotte explained they were in the process of moving.
Oh, you did.
When police told her the reason of their visit, Charlotte said, "You have no right to accuse my son of such things. He's a sick boy. He has only been out of hospital a couple of days. My son wouldn't do a thing like that, and I don't like what you're saying about him." Police were introduced to Charlotte's son, 23-year-old Stefan. Stefan's parents immigrated to England after the Second World War. Charlotte, born in Yugoslavia, had worked in Rochdale's cotton mills, and his father, Ivan, was a Ukrainian roadie. At first a healthy baby, Stefan developed asthma when he was 6 months old from the cotton dust in the nearby textile mills. By age 5, he developed eczema. Health specialists advised Stefan should be permanently moved elsewhere, but the Kishko family were relying on Rochdale for work. Instead, Stefan was taken for a brief stay at his grandmother's house in Austria. The cleaner air cleared his asthma and eczema, only to be replaced with other health problems, including a blood disorder and an abscess. At age 6, he was taken back to Rochdale and enrolled in school, 1 year behind his peers. was intelligent enough to perform his duties, although he was perceived by his colleagues as unworldly and immature. Nevertheless, his superior considered him a satisfactory worker. Female staff appreciated Stefan because he was always willing to help them carry heavy items. Assessments revealed Stefan had the mental and emotional development of a 12-year-old. Despite his towering and bulky frame, he was considered a gentle giant. He had a soft, high-pitched voice, and his teeth were brown from an addiction to sweets. He was known to always carry a bag of sweets on him, making him popular with local children. Awkward and vulnerable, he avoided work social activities, preferring to stay at home. In September 1970, when Stefan was 18 years old, his 56-year-old father collapsed on the street. He had suffered a fatal heart attack and was buried in Westdale Cemetery. With the death of Ivan Kishko, Stefan and his mother Charlotte drew strength from each other. For Stefan, Charlotte was his best friend. Others viewed their closeness as abnormal, especially for someone Stefan's age. On November 5th, 1975, 1 month after Leslie's murder, police spoke with Stefan, questioning him about the numerous reports of indecent exposure around the Turfhill estate. Stefan leapt from his chair and demanded his mother. When Charlotte appeared, he said,
There's only
"They
one
have just
thing in
accused
there.
me of exposing myself to some girls."
I got a small
Charlotte
sword.
responded,
I got a
"That's
small
stupid.
sword.
You did
He
too?
never would do a thing like
Nice.
that."
I was afraid we both would
Stefan
win.
allowed the officers to check out his car,
Cool.
a small bronze-coloured Hillman Avenger. He told
Probably-
police he hadn't driven the car for several
Probably
weeks
could
due to
keep
a risk
going,
of
but
leg injury.
whatever.
1 year prior, Stefan suffered a
Yeah.
complex break in his ankle, known as a
Trying
pus
to talk
fracture.
to them, but they won't.
He hadn't fully recovered from the surgery, and at times he'd go through bouts of agonising pain, requiring him to walk with a stick. Police found nothing to suggest Stefan was the sexual deviant, but before they left, they warned him they'd be making further inquiries. A report was written on the matter, detailing the accusations against Stefan, and a copy of this report was handed to the team investigating Leslie Mulseed's murder. Just over a month later, around 5 p.m. on December 7th, the day of Leslie Mulseed's funeral, 2 detectives investigating the murder arrived to a semi-detached house in Kings Road. It belonged to the Kitchkos, who had just completed their move from their home in Crawford Street. Flow of information for the Mulseed murder investigation had dried up. Police were reaching a standstill. 12,269 people had been checked out, and 8,069 vehicles had been investigated. 7,000 formal interviews were conducted, and 4,917 statements were taken. The Vauxhall Beaver and Morris Minor vehicles seen by witnesses when Leslie disappeared were yet to be identified, although thousands of matching vehicles had been ruled out. 6 people had been listed as strong persons of interest, but all were eventually eliminated from the investigation. Detectives were now sifting meticulously through the abundance of information obtained, hoping to find a missing link or piece of evidence that would lead them to the identity of Leslie's killer. This included investigating the claims made against Stefan Kitchko by Maxine Buckley. Stefan was questioned for a second time about the October 4th indecent exposure incident on Vavasor Street. Stefan gave a more detailed alibi this time. He said he was in hospital, having an operation on his foot. The following day, when Leslie was abducted, Stefan claimed he was being discharged from hospital. When police asked for proof, Stefan shuffled through cluttered packing boxes, then conceded he couldn't find his hospital discharge letter. Stefan excused himself to make a phone call. Police overheard the conversation. Stefan asked the person on the other line if they could remember what day he left hospital. After a long pause, Stefan said, "Oh, it's just that I'm supposed to have killed a little girl now." Stefan ended the call and told police the person he spoke to was unable to help. Stefan said he was willing to make a formal statement regarding his whereabouts on Sunday, October 5th. At this stage, detectives weren't fully convinced Stefan had any involvement in Leslie's abduction or murder. He didn't fit their profile of Leslie's killer. He was socially naive and childlike, polite and gentle. And although a little strange,
And
detectives
don't
believed he was
die.
decent and respectable.
Oh yeah.
Stefan made a one-page signed statement. Quote, "As far as I can remember on Sunday, October 5 this year, I was an inpatient at Manchester Royal, where I was receiving treatment for an ankle injury. If I had been discharged from hospital on October 5, I would have certainly have spent all that day at home, as I was almost unable to walk at the time." Detectives later visited the Manchester Royal Hospital. Upon checking hospital records, they made a startling discovery. Stefan Kishko was not discharged on October 5. He was discharged on September 15, 3 weeks before Leslie was abducted.
Well then.
Detectives returned to the Kings Road house to confront Stefan with the discrepancy in his statement. He seemed unruffled, saying it was a long time ago and he couldn't fully remember the day. He accepted he must not have been at Manchester Royal Hospital on the weekend of October 4
Oh,
and
it's
5.
raining today.
Instead, he claimed he was at his Crawford Road home helping his mother pack in preparation for their move to Kings Road. According to Stefan, he remained home for the duration of his recovery. He didn't go out at any time because he had difficulty walking. Stefan stated specifically that the first time he left the house after his surgery was Sunday, October 12, a week after Leslie was abducted. On that day, he drove his mother and aunt to Rochdale Cemetery to visit his father's grave.
Where's my
At 10:30 a.m. on December 21, 1975, Stefan Kishko heard another knock at his front door. The 3 detectives on Stefan's doorstep asked him to accompany them to the police station to
Place it
further
on
discuss
top
the
of your
incidents of
other
indecent exposure.
And then put that.
Stefan agreed.
I don't know.
He also permitted police to search his bedroom and the car.
I'll make another.
In his bedroom,
for our
police collected a
old
suit of
equipment.
tissue and several adult magazines found down the side of his bed. At the police station, Stefan was again questioned about the weekend of October 4 and 5. He maintained he didn't leave the house as he was too weak after his visit to the hospital weeks prior. To clarify, police again asked Stefan why he was hospitalised. He explained that he had a blood transfusion and several injections. This story caught the interviewing detective's attention. It was completely different to his previous version, where he said he was hospitalised to receive treatment on an injured foot. It was unlikely to be a simple mistake. The reason for a hospital visit isn't something one would easily confuse. Stefan appeared lost in his own lies. Stefan stood firm about not leaving his house until Sunday, October 12, when he took his mother and aunt to visit Rochdale Cemetery. Police then moved their focus to Bonfire Night, November 5, the night Maxine Buckley and Michael Rigby saw Stefan walking along Vavasor Street, pulling faces and grinding his teeth at them. But Stefan denied going out that night too. Believing they were dealing with a liar, detectives pressed the matter. As expected, Stefan wasn't being truthful. He later admitted he was out that night. He was driving some items from the Crawford Street address to their new house on Kings Road. In response to being positively identified by Maxine Buckley as the man who exposed himself to her, Stefan claimed she must have been mistaking him for someone else. Police sensed Stefan was hiding something, and they were right. Through more questioning, they got Stefan to admit he stopped by a bonfire when out driving that night. When asked if he got out of the car, he said, quote, "Well, I may have done, but I can't remember. It's all a bit hazy. It's these damned injections. They make me feel a bit funny for a few days after I have them." In August 1975, 2 months before Leslie's murder, Stefan was admitted to hospital for severe anemia. Tests confirmed Stefan had hypogonadism, a hormone deficiency that causes defective sexual development. This explained why Stefan was stuck in a childlike mental state. Treatment was intramuscular testosterone injections, administered once every 3 weeks. Common side effects from the injections were headaches, dizziness, and anxiety. But more worryingly from the police point of view, they could cause increased aggression and increased interest in sex. As Stefan was questioned at Rochdale Police Station, a further search of his Kings Road house was underway. Charlotte Kishko was home at the time and didn't object to the search. In Stefan's bedroom, officers found a small white-handled penknife in a box on the windowsill and a red-handled flip knife in the top drawer of his dressing table. A search of his car revealed a pair of red industrial gloves under the front passenger seat, 2 pairs of imitation leather gloves on the dashboard, 3 deflated balloons and 2 bags of sweets in the ashtray, a syringe in the glove compartment, and a hooded parka on the rear seat. Under a piece of carpet in the boot, they found 11 adult magazines. Back at the station, police questioned Stefan about the testosterone injections for his hormone deficiency. Stefan said, "Well, when I was in hospital, I discussed my problem with the doctor, and he gave me some injections to bring me on." He later added, "I've no interest in girls at all, but the injections will help me." Stefan was asked to empty his pockets. He produced a black-handled knife he claimed to use to clean his car battery. He also produced a second knife. This blade was 3 3/4 inches long and 1/2 inch wide, with an imitation bone handle. According to Stefan, he used this one to cut string. Police went back to questioning Stefan about Bonfire Night, November 5, the night Maxine identified him as the man who exposed himself to her. They had so far established Stefan lied about his actions that night. They were now aware he did leave his house, was out driving, and he dropped by a bonfire. Police wanted to know what he did when he stopped the car. They were expecting him to confess to being on Vavasor Street and subsequently prove he was the unknown deviant exposing himself to children in the Turf Hill estate. What Stefan revealed instead shocked them all. Whilst in his car by the bonfire, Stefan said he saw some girls, and to quote, "I got it out and wanked myself off." He said that was the first time he had masturbated in public, but he'd done it other times since then. When girls weren't around, he would use the magazines instead. As Stefan's interview continued, police searching his car made an intriguing discovery. In the glove compartment, they found 2 small pieces of paper with a list of handwritten letters and numbers. They were car registration details.
Did you make this one?
One stood out from the rest.
Okay.
Unlike the others, it was written in red ink. ADK
'Cause I felt like you were gonna spill
539
over
L.
pretty soon.
Police had actually seen this number plate before. It belonged to a Renault 16TL. The owners had spoken to investigators earlier in the Multistreaming murder investigation. The Renault belonged to a couple from Manchester. On Sunday, October 5, 1975, the day of Leslie's abduction, they visited Rochdale, arriving at 2:15 p.m. and leaving at 7:15 p.m. Upon their arrival and departure, they had travelled along the A672 motorway, passing the lay-by where Leslie Mulseed's body was later found. Police wanted to know why Stefan Kishko had his number plate written on a piece of paper in his car. With this discovery, Detective Superintendent Dick Holland, the leading officer of the Mulseed murder investigation, decided to take a more active role in the questioning of Stefan Kishko. He sensed this was the smoking gun they'd spent 3 months searching for. Detective Holland asked Stefan about the list of car registration details he had written down. Stefan admitted he would write down the registration details of any vehicles he was bothered by or saw driving recklessly. He'd started years before when he was almost hit by a car. Police had told him back then that unless the car could be identified, there was little they could do, and they suggested he take note of the registration details if it ever happened again. Stefan went through his list and was able to recall the exact reason why he wrote down most of the registration numbers. He faulted only at one. The number plate belonging to the Renault that passed the lay-by twice the day of Leslie's disappearance. The number plate that stood out from the others, as it was written in red ink. Stefan couldn't remember why he wrote that registration down. He stated, "I can't remember anything when I've had my injections. I go all hazy." Hours had passed since Stefan Kishko arrived to the Rochdale police station. It was obvious the pressure was mounting on him. He kept asking if he could go home to his mother. When not answering questions, he'd sit in uncomfortable silence. He refused food, had little to drink, and vomited several times. Police eventually allowed him to get some sleep. He didn't awaken until 11:30 the following day. Questioning recommenced, but at one point Detective Dick Holland had to take a break, stating he needed to supervise Stefan's car, which was being transported to the forensic investigation. Holland left Stefan in the presence of Detective Sergeant John Aykroyd. As they waited for Holland to return, Stefan asked what was going to happen. Aykroyd replied that further inquiries would be made. Stefan stated, "This is terrible. It's those damn injections. All this would never have happened." Aykroyd pried Stefan for more information. Stefan said, "All that thing at Kingsway Youth Club and that little girl I picked up." Aykroyd asked Stefan which little girl he was referring to. "The little girl Leslie," Stefan answered. "I don't know what happened. It's all a bit hazy. It's those damn injections." Stefan went on to say that he picked Leslie up in his car on the Sunday, the day he killed her. Aykroyd stiffened. He asked Stefan to clarify. "Did you just admit you murdered Leslie Mulseed?" "Yes," Stefan replied. "I killed that little girl." Aykroyd rushed to the door and signalled to the other officers. Within minutes, Detective Holland returned with Chief Inspector Thomas Steele in tow. Stefan began his confession. He started with the incident at the youth club the night of Friday, October 3rd. Quote, "It was fairly dark. There was a disco going on at the youth club, and girls came down the road. Something came over me, and I unzipped my trousers and got my penis out. I had a knife in my hand, but that was a mere triviality." As for the Vavasor Street incident involving Maxine Buckley on October 4th, Stefan said he didn't deliberately expose himself. He accidentally unzipped his pants, and it was his shirt flap that came out. Next, he spoke about Sunday, October 5th. When out driving, he spotted Leslie Mulseed walking alone down Broad Lane. The two had never met before this moment. Stefan pulled up beside her and wound his window down. He couldn't remember what he said, but she got into the passenger seat of his car. As Stefan drove off, Leslie started shouting. He hit her with his hand to silence her. They drove for a short while and eventually wound up on the A672 motorway. Stefan pulled his car into the lay-by, feeling overwhelmed by a familiar urge. He led Leslie up the hillside to the moor. He made her lie on the grass, and he masturbated onto her underwear. Stefan pushed her away when he was done. After this, his memory became hazy. He couldn't remember exactly where or how many times he stabbed Leslie. He then wiped her brain with the body, clambered down the hill to his car, and didn't look back. After Stefan signed his near 7-page confession for the murder of Leslie Mulseed, he was arrested, placed in a cell at the station, and a lawyer was contacted on his behalf. Stefan became increasingly distraught whilst in the cell, and kept asking if he could go home. Once his lawyer arrived and the two had a private discussion, Stefan unexpectedly asked to retract his confession. Police led him back to the interview room. Stefan gave a new statement, this time in the presence of a lawyer. In this new statement, Stefan denied he was at the youth club on Friday, October 3rd. He maintained his account of the Vavasor Street incident on October 4th, that he accidentally unzipped his pants and it was his shirt flap that came out. In regards to Sunday, October 5th, Stefan said he was out driving around the Turf Hill estate, but he outright denied abducting and killing Leslie Mulseed. Police were skeptical. They had already proven Stefan was a liar. Nevertheless, this new statement was written up and signed by Stefan, his lawyer, and the officers present. Despite Stefan's new statement and retracted confession, his arrest was upheld and he was led back to his cell. On the way back to the cell, Detective Dick Holland asked Stefan, "From your first statement, you have described the effects of the drugs, and if you were hazy and can't remember, How do you know what you told me in the first statement is untrue? To which Stefan replied, I have told you the truth. I remember the girl by the shop in Broad Lane and taking her to the moors. I must have stabbed her. That's how I showed you the bone-handled knife. Stefan had changed his account again. He was back to confessing. His lawyer was no longer present when he confessed this second time. At 10:15 p.m. that night, Stefan was driven towards Halifax Police Station. The police car moved away from the lights of Rochdale and into the dark, rolling hills of the moors. Suddenly, the police car pulled off the road and came to a stop. Stefan's body started to shake. His hands moved into the prayer position. He said anxiously, I can hear voices. Can't you? The police car rolled out of the lay-by and emerged back onto the A672 motorway. On the morning of July 7, 1976, Stefan Kishko hunched under the heavy gaze of the trial judge, Sir Hugh Parr, and the 12 jurors set to determine his fate. Stefan had pled not guilty on Christmas Eve the year before. His lawyer didn't apply for bail. It was the first Christmas Charlotte Kishko was alone, without her son. There was little doubt amongst the court. Stefan Kishko had abducted and killed Leslie Mulsey. In private, even his own lawyers said they thought he was guilty. Stefan was a confessed public masturbator who'd exposed himself in the presence of young girls. Stefan attributed this sexually aggressive behaviour to testosterone injections for his hormonal disorder. He received one such injection on Friday, October 3rd, 1975, 2 days prior to Leslie Mulsey's abduction. As to why Stefan felt an attraction to children, it made sense psychologically. Stefan's delayed development meant he was emotionally equivalent to a 12-year-old. So when the injections allowed him to feel sexual attraction and gratification, his mind was attracted to those he most related to.
You can get in there eventually.
Children.
Takes you to the desert land.
The prosecution labelled Stefan's car a travelling kidnapping kit. He had the bait to lure children, balloons and sweets, as well as the weapons to carry out an attack, clubs and knives. Inside his glove compartment was the list of registration numbers, including the one belonging to the Renault that passed the lay-by the afternoon of Leslie's disappearance. Stefan refused to offer an explanation why he noted this number down. The prosecution put forward that Stefan witnessed the car whilst at the lay-by with Leslie. Stefan's appearance strongly matched eyewitness Christopher Coverdale's account of the man he saw leading a child matching Leslie's description up to the moor that same afternoon.
There.
And of
What is
course,
that?
Stefan's own confession before
That
he retracted it
is...
stated he drove to the lay-by with
the-
Leslie at that time.
Go left.
Forensic evidence proved Stefan had
Cattle
contact with Leslie.
place.
Oh, the
Wool fibers found on Leslie's clothing matched carpet used as a mat on the floor of Stefan's use. White powder on Leslie's clothing, identified as wallpaper paste, was found in Stefan's home. The blue pen with a white cap found at the crime scene matched pens used at his workplace. The knife Stefan had previously confessed to using had traces of blood on it. The semen staining found on Leslie's underwear could not be blood or DNA tested due to limitations with the technology. But forensic testing did conclude the staining on Leslie's underwear only contained seminal fluid, not sperm.
Can't go in there.
This meant it had come from someone who was infertile. Stefan was infertile. After Stefan retracted his confession for Leslie's murder, he offered an alibi instead. On Sunday, October 5, 1975, he said he was at home between noon and 1:30 p.m, the time frame Leslie was likely abducted.
Yeah.
After lunch, Stefan said he drove his mother and his aunt to the Rochdale Cemetery to lay
You have
fresh
one in your
flowers of his
inventory right now.
father's
Different
grave.
one.
Doesn't have to be a.
After that,
Every day,
they visited a grocery
give
store
her
where
another
Stefan purchased a jar of German mustard.
Well, where is
He
she?
recalled an argument taking place in the store at the time over some curtains.
Uh,
Afterwards, Stefan drove his mother and aunt home to Crawford Street. An employee at the grocery store recalled Stefan coming in to purchase the mustard. and even corroborated his story about the argument over curtains that was happening in
I
the
don't know
store.
where she is.
But she couldn't be certain the day in question was October
her?
5. She accepted it was just as likely to have been the following week. Back at the Kishko's Crawford Street home on October 5, Stefan's aunt said she remembered hearing the wail of a fire engine when they returned home after visiting the grocery store. Police confirmed no fire-related emergency calls were made in that area on October 5, but the fire brigade did attend a house in Crawford Street on October 12.
Equip your thing. Yeah.
This
no,
led police to believe the alibi Stefan had given
right.
was for events that had taken place the week after Leslie's murder. The most implicating evidence was Stefan's first confession.
Yeah,
He detailed facts about the crime scene only Leslie's killer could know.
Well, now I can't go in there
This
and get the
included
shorts,
Leslie's
right?
attacker did not remove her underwear, semen
No, I don't think
stains
you're
found
gonna
on the outside of her clothing,
It'll take
and
a few
the
more
murder
days.
weapon was wiped clean on her body.
Yeah,
Police had
not yet.
intentionally kept these things from public knowledge to help
Okay.
determine false
I'll
leads and
keep
false
bringing her
confessions.
flowers.
Yet Stefan had
every
mentioned
day.
these facts in detail in his original confession. Only the killer could know them. The prosecution theorised Stefan retracted his first confession to avoid shame and guilt and to protect his mother from learning what he had done.
Did you try? I should have asked you.
A proven
It didn't
liar,
let me.
he backpedaled and denied everything in a desperate attempt to secure his release. The defence wanted Stefan to consider arguing a case for manslaughter under the reason of diminished responsibility, arguing the testosterone injections impaired Stefan's judgment and actions. However, Stefan refused to admit guilt in any capacity. He was even confident the jury would find him innocent. On July 21, 1976, after 5 hours and 35 minutes of deliberation, the jury in Stefan Kishko's trial for the murder of Leslie Mulsey reached their verdict. Guilty. Stefan was given a life sentence with a minimum of 30 years. Early release would only be considered if he admitted his guilt.
Chicken!
The Mulsey family was satisfied justice was served for child killer Stefan Kishko. Yet, his capture and conviction did not bring April Mulsey any sense of joy. Quote, "When Leslie died, I died a common death. It just completely and utterly killed every emotion I had. I'm still the same today." The trial judge, Sir Hugh Parr, commended the police officers of West Yorkshire and Greater Manchester for their great work in bringing Kishko to justice and for their expertise in sifting through the masses of case material. Judge Park also praised those who had bravely come forward and reported the indecent acts committed by Stefan Kishko. Maxine Buckley was singled out by the judge and thanked for her sharp eye in identifying Stefan as the sexual deviant in the Turf Hill estate. It was Maxine who'd set the line of inquiry into motion, leading to the capture of Stefan Kishko. Her mother, Sheila, was proud of her daughter's actions. She told the media Rochdale's children were much safer now. Thanks to her daughter Maxine, a monster had been put away. Or so it seemed. The deed continued next week.
There's more to it?
Or
What?
so it seems.
I love you!
I love you.
You're
I want
good.
you to meet Daniel Bernstein.
Hello! Over here!
He's a little strange.
Some nights I wake up and I think it would be amazing
Is
to
this
go
the
on a
same
plane.
podcast?
He lives in a mansion.
Originally, this was meant to be a bathroom, but I've converted it into my bedroom. I just feel more comfortable sleeping in small spaces, and so I actually sleep in this tub.
And he also may have killed his twin brother Chuck.
911, what's your emergency?
My brother, I think he's dead.
Okay, please calm down, sir. What happened?
This Sounds Serious is a new fictional true crime podcast from Castbox. If you like some humor with your true crime, then this is the show for you. It's packed with cults, plot twists, a weatherman, a boy band, and, of course, an unsolved murder.
Yeah, he's dead. He's face down in his bed, and I'm poking him pretty hard here, and it would be very unlike him to not respond to this kind of poking.
Download This Sounds Serious wherever you get your podcasts.
You having a good day?
Mm-hmm.
Wanna listen to another case file?
Thought this was gonna keep going.
On November 26, 2010, a mother was faced with her worst nightmare. In a small town on the Michigan-Ohio border, 3 boys went missing. Andrew, Alexander, and Tanner Skelton were with their father for the Thanksgiving holiday. He was supposed to drop them off at their mother's the next day. That didn't happen, and she hasn't seen her son since. That was almost a decade ago, and we still have no answers on what the father did with his kids. Hear the whole story and find out why investigators are closer than ever to solving this case. Listen to Shattered Black Friday podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm giving you love, baby. I'm proud of it.
Our episodes deal with serious and often distressing incidents. If you feel at any time you need support, please contact your local crisis centre. For suggested phone numbers for confidential support, please see the show notes for this episode on your app
Basically dead.
or on our
So
website.
I'm going to bed.
Time to sleep.
Today's episode deals with a crime committed against a child, but won't be suitable
Yes,
for all
we
listeners.
will sleep for the night.
Thanks.
9-year-old Sarah,
You're welcome.
not her real name, left her home in the Turf Hill estate to meet her best friend. She lived a short walk from Leslie Mulseed's family on Delamere Road, and both girls had gone to the same school. The day was July 3rd, 1976, and the fear that plagued Rochdale in the wake of Leslie's murder had long since faded. Child killer Stephen Kishko was in custody. His trial would begin in 4 days' time. Doors were left unlocked, and children were allowed out unsupervised again. Life had returned to normal. In the semi-industrial end of Rochdale was Vavasor Street, a grey brick road encased by Rochdale's trademark terraces. It was a quiet, lonely street with minimal traffic. Sarah would often meet there with her friends to play. On this occasion, the two chased each other in a game of tag. A red taxi pulled into the street and crawled along the curb, rolling to a stop beside the girls. Inside the vehicle was a lone male driver. Sarah didn't give him a second thought, assuming the taxi was hailed by a neighbour who'd appear any second. It wasn't until the driver emerged from the vehicle that the girls sensed something was wrong. He was walking toward them, not the house. When he got to arm's length, he lunged. Her friend managed to flee, as Sarah was grabbed and forced into the taxi. After he slammed the door shut, she reached for the handle, but it was locked. The attacker leapt into the driver's seat, and in seconds, the taxi was speeding away. Sarah yelled over and over, "I want to go home. Let me go." Each time her attacker responded, "No, you're not going." He drove through Rochdale's suburban streets with clear familiarity, pulling up near a park at a derelict empty house. Sarah was quickly forced inside. Half an hour into the attack, Sarah violently kicked the man in the leg. He followed, and she took a split-second opportunity to escape. Sarah ran home and told her mother what had happened. Rochdale police were called immediately. Suffering severe trauma, Sarah had difficulty remembering the exact details of what happened in the house. She did recall her attacker exposed his genitals and masturbated. There was no evidence of penetrative sexual attack, but semen staining was found on her
She
clothing.
won't come out of her room.
She described her attacker as Caucasian, around 30 years old, with a stocky build and receding ginger red hair.
We both have sweet peas
Sarah
for her.
climbed into a police car
Yeah.
with
We
her
both
mother
not
and
give
took
them to
officers
her.
along
We both
the
can
route
give
the
her
taxi
one.
had driven. As they drove
Yeah.
beyond Turf Hill's narrow, leafy streets, she sprung up anxiously. The red taxi was right there.
That means the mayor's
road
having
in
sex
front.
with Marnie.
In the front seat was the ginger-haired suspect. Police
Here
swooped
she
in.
comes.
9 days later, on July 12, Sarah's attacker was brought before Rochdale Magistrates Court. He pleaded guilty to indecent assault and incitement to commit an act of gross
Oh
indecency
look, her bedroom door's
for
open.
his brazen and traumatic crime.
Can't
He
go
was
in there.
only ordered to
I
pay a
got
fine
two
of
gifts
£50.
marked off next to her.
He
Good.
left the court a free man. This attack bore a chilling resemblance to the Leslie Mulseed attack, which had occurred almost 9
I
months
think
earlier.
we're short.
Both were young girls,
Sure
residents of the Turf Hill estate, who were snatched off Rochdale streets within a few kilometres of each other. They were both taken to a secluded location and sexually assaulted in an identical manner that almost seemed too unique to be just a coincidence. Had Sarah not taken the chance to escape, both crimes may have ended the same way. But no connection was made between the two attacks. They couldn't be connected. Police had already caught Leslie Mulseed's killer.
That might not be true. Might be not true.
Behind bars, Stefan Kishko was the lowest of the low, a convicted pedophile who murdered his victim. Despised by the prison population, they taunted and threatened him constantly. Soon after arriving, he was set upon by a group of inmates. In another attack, he was struck on the head with a light needle, needing stitches. Even the prison chapel wasn't safe. There, Stefan was punched in the face. He received little sympathy from prison staff, who put the blame on Stefan, noting he was being difficult. He was often placed in segregation for his own safety. In May 1978, nearly 2 years after his murder conviction, Stefan Kishko's legal team launched an appeal. They pushed to get Stefan's conviction downgraded from murder to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Lord Justice Nigel Bridge ruled, quote, "We can find no grounds whatsoever to condemn the jury's verdict of murder as in any way unsafe or unsatisfactory. The appeal is dismissed." In prison, Stefan's mental state deteriorated. Diagnosed with depression, paranoia, and emotional instability, he'd often withdraw into a catatonic-like silence. He struggled to think or act independently. Eventually, he refused food and soiled himself. As punishment, he was sent to the strip cell, where he had little else but a concrete slab for a bed. Years passed, and Stefan's mind drifted further from reality. Showing signs of schizophrenic delusions, he spoke of hearing coded messages through the radio and obsessed over the numbers 5 and 8. The 5th was the day Leslie disappeared. The 8th was the day her body was found. Stefan believed he was part of a government experiment. At his lowest point, he suspected his own mother was in on the scheme. Prison doctors had to prescribe him tranquilizers to cope. Unless he admitted to the murder of Leslie Mulseed, Stefan knew he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Parole officers and psychiatrists tried to coax a confession. They offered Stefan a sex offenders treatment program that would fast-track him to parole. But Stefan refused the offer. Psychiatrists concluded Stefan's mental instability and delusions allowed him to maintain false ideas of innocence. Sundays were once predictable for Charlotte Kishko. In the morning, she rose early and attended Mass. Afterwards, she'd buy fresh flowers and take them to her husband's grave at the Rochdale Cemetery. Stefan was always with her. Charlotte didn't drive, so he drove her around town. After the cemetery, they'd stop by a grocery store on Tweedale Street, which sold German food, reminding Charlotte of her childhood.
Oh, this is new.
Charlotte always maintained that they did this weekly ritual on the Sunday that Leslie Mulseed was abducted. Behind her motherly warmness was a resolve tough
Was
as
that from the
concrete.
earthquake?
I guess.
Charlotte endured childhood in Nazi-occupied Slovenia,
There's something.
then fled the Soviet army, setting course for England.
Bathhouse, that's right. You can go up there to...
In Rochdale, she picked up work at the cotton mills. It was tough work that took its toll, but she persisted. The community saw her as a kind and intelligent woman. She took pride in herself and her home, where everyone was welcomed with open arms and a glass of fortified wine. Despite her gentle disposition, Charlotte had immense inner strength. As she left court on the day of Stefan's conviction, abuse was hurled at her, but she remained firm in her belief that Stefan was innocent. Twice a month, Charlotte made the 8-hour return bus trip from Rochdale to Wakefield Prison. She would have seen Stefan more often if prison regulation allowed. At first, the Rochdale community viewed her with sympathy, a naive mother unwilling to face the harsh truth. But it didn't take long to put a great fight. Her incessant proclamations of Stefan's innocence grated on them. Pity turned to resentment, and Charlotte was ostracised. For over a decade, Charlotte campaigned to have her son's conviction reviewed. Stonewalled by police, politicians, the Prime Minister, and even the Queen, Charlotte eventually contacted Justice, a UK-based human rights and law reform organisation. From there, she was put in touch with a Manchester solicitor named Campbell Malone. Skeptical at first, Malone was drawn to Charlotte's intensity and adamance that her son was innocent, so he agreed to look into Stefan's conviction. Malone expected that his investigation would reinforce the guilty verdict, but it wasn't long before he felt things weren't adding up. He put together a small investigation team of 2 law students and a private eye. Malone also sought help from Philip Clegg, the junior counsel for Stefan's defence at trial. Clegg had lurking doubts that Stefan was guilty. While Malone's team didn't find anything that absolved Stefan, they did discover errors made during his trial. A worrying amount of circumstantial evidence was relied on as conclusive proof, and the most problematic for Stefan was an inadequate effort from his own legal defence team to argue his innocence. Malone detailed his concerns in a petition urging that Stefan's case be reopened. On October 26, 1989, the file was sent to the Home Secretary, where it languished for a year. But Malone kept pushing hard for action, and finally, his efforts paid off. On November 26, 1990, West Yorkshire Police Detective Superintendent Trevor Wilkinson was handed a file marked confidential. On the front was the name Stefan Kishko. Wilkinson didn't work the Mulseed murder investigation, but he knew other officers who did. He had no reason to doubt the work of his colleagues and friends. If they reached the conclusion that Stefan Kishko killed Leslie Mulseed, then he must have done it. Thumbing through the documents, it looked like routine stuff, a rehash of the investigation and conviction. Wilkinson conceded that the investigating police may have been heavy-handed in their approach to elicit Stefan's confession, but by that stage, there was already enough evidence pointing to Stefan as the killer. Stefan's confession wasn't tape-recorded, only handwritten notes existed. Recording wasn't legally required in 1975 without an arrest, and Stefan had attended the police station voluntarily. His arrest came after he made his confession. A break-in questioning was the first time Stefan admitted to killing Leslie. Detective Sergeant John Ackroyd was the only officer supervising him at the time. Without a recording to prove it, Wilkinson had to take Ackroyd's
You have
word,
to bring up dish
but he had
with the
since
papa.
passed away.
Do we know how to cook in this
The
game?
services of an attorney were not offered to Stefan during his questioning, but
There
again,
are
it
some
was only
items,
mandatory
yeah.
to do so after an arrest.
Go to your recipes.
There were no implications Stefan was mistreated by the investigating police, and Stefan had made no formal complaint regarding his treatment. Yet, as Wilkinson continued to read Stefan's file, he heard a faint alarm bell ring from the back of his mind. statement written by Stephen's general practitioner, Dr. George DeVaz. Months prior to Leslie's murder, Stephen fractured his ankle. He was also overweight and had an awkward gait. In Dr. DeVaz's opinion, it would have been near impossible for Stephen to scale the lay-by hillside dragging a child behind him, as Leslie's killer had done. Dr. DeVaz was never called to give evidence at Stephen's trial. Maria Barron had also provided a statement to police. Maria owned the Continental Grocers on Tweedale Street that Charlotte and Stephen regularly visited to buy German foods. Charlotte was adamant she and Stephen were at the store at the time Leslie was abducted. During the murder investigation, Maria actually confirmed Stephen's alibi. But investigating police told her she wouldn't be required to appear at Stephen's trial. She found it strange, but believed her statement was enough. After being told she wouldn't be needed at court, Maria went ahead with holiday plans. When Stephen's court proceedings began, the defence asked for someone from the store to testify, but Maria was now overseas. Her daughter also worked in the store, so she appeared instead. However, Maria's daughter couldn't confirm Stephen's alibi. Maria's statement was never read in court, for reasons unknown. During the late stages of Stephen's trial, a juror informed the judge of a serious problem. When the court was adjourned for lunch, she overheard a conversation between officials. They were discussing how the defence counsel advised Stephen to plead guilty. A jury member hearing this information was considered highly prejudicial and a conflict of interest. She should have been discharged from jury duty, but she wasn't. During the time of Leslie's disappearance, 2 suspicious vehicles were sighted in Turf Hill Estate, and they were also spotted parked at the lay-by where Leslie was found. One was a cream-coloured 1964 Vauxhall Viva, the other a turquoise Morris Minor 1000 minivan. The cars were never identified, and inquiries to find the owners ended the moment Stephen Kishko was in custody. Rochdale resident Emma Tong saw a girl in the Vauxhall Viva. She knew Leslie Mulseed by sight, and she was adamant the girl in the car was Leslie. Emma appeared at Stephen's trial. The judge accepted her as an entirely honest and careful witness. Her testimony was highly valuable in Stephen's defence, as he drove the police on an adventure. The judge told the jury that if they believed Emma's testimony, then Stephen Kishko must be acquitted. However, the defence weren't given Emma's statement until day 1 of the trial. There was no explanation why this information was not disclosed to them earlier. They were not given time to properly investigate the cream Vauxhall Viva or the turquoise Morris minivan. Stephen's legal team could have and should have sought an adjournment to conduct an investigation, but they didn't. The alarm bells were now deafening. Detective Trevor Wilkinson couldn't ignore them anymore. He compiled a small team of police officers whose integrity he trusted. They were instructed to reinvestigate Stephen Kishko's conviction. Solicitor Campbell Malone wrote to Stephen at Wakefield Prison to give him the good news. But Stephen's response was hollow. He wrote back, "I hope you and the detectives are getting somewhere." Wilkinson's team visited Rochdale. They walked the route Leslie took from her home to Stiles Lane, the isolated alley where she was last seen. From there, they drove to the lay-by and scaled the hillside to the embankment. With a greater, more personal understanding of Leslie's final journey, Wilkinson and his team were ready to start re-interviewing witnesses. Emma Tong was now 82 years old, and even after a decade and a half, she was still certain the girl she saw in the Vauxhall Viva that Sunday afternoon in 1975 was Leslie Mulseed. Christopher Coverdale was the only witness to see a man and the girl on the lay-by the afternoon of October 5, 1975. His description of the girl matched Leslie Mulseed, and he described the man as plump, between the ages of 30 and 35, with light brown or fair-coloured hair. It wasn't a stretch to link these descriptions to Stefan Kishko. Stefan was overweight, looked older than his age, and had short brown hair. Christopher also recalled that the man's hair was receding. Although Stefan wasn't going bald, he did have a large forehead, which may have been misidentified as a receding hairline. However, Christopher also described